What's up, friends? Welcome back to Rooted Wisconsin, where we are dedicated to authentically sharing the stories of the people that make Wisconsin a fantastic place. Going to start off our episode today, like we do everyone, thanking you. Thank you for listening, watching, subscribing, hitting that like button, like on social medias. All that stuff's really important, and we appreciate you. So thanks for being there and coming along for the ride with us. Growth's been great since we started, and we're really excited for what's next. Another quick shout out to the folks at Discover Green Bay for the studio space. Worked out a nice agreement with them, so thanks to the kind folks at Discover Green Bay, making sure people come and visit a great place of Green Bay. And then speaking of growth, a big announcement today that we've partnered with Riverside Pizza of Green Bay. Previous episode, you saw Ryan Rizzaconi come and talk about his journey of bringing that famous Riverside Pizza from Iron River to Wisconsin, and particularly Green Bay. And he kind of let the mentioned that maybe some other spots in Wisconsin coming soon. So I'm excited to see that. I know I was so excited when Riverside was coming to Green Bay. I live in Ashwaubenon. That's where Riverside is. And my wife and I always used to joke about we can't believe that we kind of live in the busy center of Green Bay, but we didn't have a pizza that we loved close. And when Riverside came, we were really excited about that. So now excited to partner with them. They'll be a great sponsor of the show, and excited to see where that goes too. So thank you for Ryan and the team at Riverside for putting faith in us. Producer Dan and I have been on a journey of not even a year yet. We're coming up on a year. And it's been really fun, and really appreciate Ryan and his team putting some faith in us and partnering up. So Riverside Pizza is the new sponsor of Rooted Wisconsin. So happy to have them too. That leads us to our first guest today, John Craemer. Thanks for coming in, John.
Yes, sir.
It's I'm really excited to talk. We've had a chance to cross paths a few times, and I'm sure there's a lot to your story. You were just starting to get into it a little bit. Owner of Master Sargeant Media.
Yes, sir.
LLC is the
Yep.
LLC on the end, right?
Yep.
Okay. And a host of other things you've done throughout your life. So I'm excited to get to some of them. How long has Master Sargeant Media been a thing? When did you start it?
I started up in July.
Okay.
Primarily, to be honest, for tax purposes, for purchasing of photography equipment and stuff.
They might be listening. Don't tell them.
Well, it's all legal.
Yeah, it's above board. I get it.
Yes, of course.
Nice. We'll get to how you got into that and everything, but I guess where did your interest in photography start?
Well, it actually started in high school a long time ago.
Nice.
So I went to Regis High School in Eau Claire, and I was into photography there, and black and white, the dark room, all that.
Yeah.
Won some awards, had some stuff published, and it's always kind of been there. And with what I ended up doing in the Army, we took a lot of photos of what we did. We always said, if there's no picture, it didn't happen. So a lot of photography there, and it's always been something I've been interested in. And after retirement, I figured out I needed to do something, so I took the step. And
Gotcha. So a long time in the making.
Yes, sir.
Long time in the making. That's great. So did you go to the Army right out of high school?
I didn't. No, I didn't
Okay.
join. I didn't join till I was 24. It's always kind of been there, but I was going to college on and off, and working at a bar restaurant and having a great time. And I figured it was time to get away from that and try to get back in school full time. And I initially joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard over in Eau Claire, and I was a traditional guardsman, the 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer. And then in 1999, I transferred to the Army Reserve to the 432nd Civil Affairs Battalion here in Green Bay.
Okay. Is that what brought you to Green Bay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and then you stayed.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Been around a little bit, but I ended up coming back here.
Okay. That's kind of a unique path to the military, right? I think most would 18 to 20 is when people jumped in, right?
There was one other soldier that was my age, but everybody else was pretty much right out of high school.
Okay.
But it had an advantage because I had some life experiences. I knew what was coming to some extent. I wasn't going to be afraid of some of the things that we were going to face and the challenges that we had going through basic and all that stuff. And it was easy for me. I mean, it was kind of a pain in the butt, the daily grind of, getting up early, making your bunk, all that kind of Army stuff, early Army stuff. But overall, it was a really good experience.
Yeah. That, talk about that a lot, about that being a super transformative period of a life. I mean, 18 to 24, you're a completely different person.
True.
So
true.
Oh man. And you think about wherever your, discipline level lived at the time when you went in, that could be way different too. But I get what you're saying about just, that area of life experience it would help you doing anything, I think. I mean, it changes life in a way that I think you look at things differently.
Yep. So I ended up managing, being part of the management of that bar restaurant that I worked at. So, I had a lot of skills going into basic and the Army and all that stuff that really helped out.
Yeah. So do you remember, if it had been in your mind, but you hadn't done it, do you remember what was the ultimate thing that you said, all right, it's time to do this?
I don't really recall anything. Maybe it was too many hangovers.
Yeah. After late night after the shift and hanging out with everybody that works there.
Yeah. Anyone that's been in that industry knows, you have a few cocktails after work and stuff, and it just felt like a time to break away from that and do a little bit more than what I was doing. I mean, I had a great time, met some great people, had a lot of fun, but just wanted to do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. So how long did you do? It's 20 years, right? You put in 20 years and
30.
So you put in 30. Okay.
Correct.
So did you keep going even after you could retire, or?
I started off as a traditional guardsman, like I mentioned, and then I was a traditional reservist. And then after a couple of deployments, it's called AGR, Active Guard Reserve. So I was basically full-time in the Army Reserve. I was active duty within the Army Reserve. So Army Reserve units and Guard units have a full-time staff of soldiers and civilians. So that's the step that I took, and that started out here in Green Bay, too, with the 432nd.
Okay. So over the course of your military career, what were some of your roles and responsibilities? What did y'all do?
You name it. So I started in the Guard as an infantryman, and then when I transferred to the 432nd, that's a civil affairs unit. So we go into places like Iraq and Afghanistan and try to reestablish the essential services of the government. So if you think all the things that make Brown County and the city of Green Bay work, we work at local, national levels to get that stuff up and running again. So I've done everything from trained police to equipping firefighters, equipping policemen, building schools and clinics and helping out with supplies for those, a lot of infrastructure repair, all that stuff.
Okay, gotcha.
It's a really...
Told you.
Yeah. It's a really awesome opportunity in the Army is to be able to do what we've done. It's very rewarding. It's still walking around with a gun. There's still that piece of it. But to be able to go out and help a civilian populace get back to where they normalcy or beyond that is an awesome experience and an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, probably a wide range of human connection made, right? Because there's probably a certain amount of the population that's really receptive to what you're doing, wants it. Yep. There's some that you obviously have to be wary of, and then things in the middle, and then there's probably some communication barriers in the middle between that.
Of course.
What's it like to navigate that?
Translators, interpreters. So, but with what we do, we need to be able to talk to the poorest farmer out in the field to government officials at the national level. So it's a really awesome experience for soldiers to be able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. How many deployments did you do?
So I did 4. I was in Iraq 2003, 04. Iraq 07, 08. I skipped one. Kosovo 05, 06. Iraq 07, 08. And then Afghanistan 11, 12.
Okay. So all for right around a year, 18 months type thing?
Yeah, about that. My first deployment, I was there a little bit longer. The 432nd actually came home, but I extended, and I went and worked at the Coalition Provisional Authority in Baghdad. So I worked in the infrastructure security office for electricity. So basically, we helped out. We let contracts to and establish programs to protect the electrical infrastructure in Iraq. So at a national level. So one thing with that, so I'm over in Iraq, I'm doing stuff at a national level, making such huge change, and then you come home and it's like, oh, I got to sit at a computer and type.
Yeah.
That was one of the challenges that I faced, is just having that opportunity to do something so significant and so important to people, and then come back here, and it just doesn't seem like it mattered as much, even though, it really did, because you're still taking care of soldiers. But it was kind of a challenge to missing that the work that we did and the changes that we made for the good of the people over there.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, but I mean, that makes perfect sense. That happens in a lot of people's careers where you don't have that immediacy of feeling of success or making a difference.
Right.
And to have that kind of, intermittently come and go would be tough. I always think the thing that comes to my mind is the sacrifice that it all takes to be gone for large chunks of your life. Whereas everybody likes some adventure sometimes and going somewhere, right. And some have more wanderlust than others, but often that's chosen. And for you, most of the time it's, okay, here's where you're going for a while, right?
So for over a 9-year period, I was gone over 6 years.
Yeah.
So the first one is like, hey, you're going. But when the Kosovo mission came up, I volunteered for that.
Okay.
And even for my second deployment to Iraq, because I had all that time deployed already, and then you don't have to go. You've done your time. I'm like, well, no, I'm going to go. My company is going. I'm going to go. So, and even with Afghanistan, because at that point I was with the AGR program, and they don't like to deploy the full-time staff. And I said, well, no, I'm going. My company's going. I need to go. My soldiers are going. I can't sit home. So that was actually a fight I had to make, and that actually went all the way up to our 2-star general to get signed off on. So, but
wow,
yeah,
I think that feeling of, probably the closest thing that equates to it is like a familial feeling. I think that often gets overlooked too. I have a friend of mine who's a Vietnam veteran, and he has told me the story where he was injured, and he was like, they were going to make him come home.
Yeah.
And he refused. He did the kind of the same thing, took it up the ladder to say no. Like my whole crew, or I'm not familiar with like the phrases. I can't remember if it's battalion or what it is, but like all of my people are still going to be here.
Right.
I'm not going to feel right going home if I think I can still make a positive impact. And I think there's very few, maybe familial connections, but there's not a whole lot of rival to that feeling, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, there's a brother and sisterhood, that the bonds that are kind of, it's hard to explain. It's kind of beyond family to some extent. And to be honest, being over there is in some ways it's easier. It's kind of an easier life. I mean, everything's kind of, lunch and dinner at this time. And, there's obviously but a lot of danger over there also, but life is kind of easy over there. You don't have to worry about bills and all that stuff. And that's all. Everything in the States is all back here, and all your focus on the mission, and it makes life a little bit easier.
It's kind of prescribed in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like scheduled and
yeah.
It's fascinating to think about. So 4 deployments, and then what? After your last one, when you came home, did you know it was your last one? Or
no, I didn't know it was my last one, but I didn't know where all these missions were going. Obviously, some didn't really turn out as well as we would liked, but
sure.
After I got home from Afghanistan in 2012, I transferred to the 410th Civil Affairs Battalion in El Paso, Texas. So I was down there for a couple years.
Okay.
And that's where I ended up getting ended up being diagnosed with cancer was down there.
Yeah. So you were still in when you got diagnosed with cancer.
Yep.
Okay. And can we talk about that a little bit?
Of course, yeah.
What type of cancer did you have?
So I had stage 4 head and neck cancer. So it started my base of tongue and basically jumped to the lymph nodes in my neck. It wasn't viral. I never smoked. I drank, but not enough to cause cancer in that area. So it was attributed to something I was exposed to on one of my deployments.
Okay. Yeah. And that's something that if you span the history of time or the recent history of military involvement, that's happened in a lot of different ways at a lot of different, geographic areas or different places. So you don't know what it was, but they're relatively sure that it was something you were exposed to.
Yeah. Everything, Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, they're all just very, very dirty places. I mean, obviously everything's, the sand, everything's in the air, and in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it's just not a sanitary condition, and
Sure.
in any form of the word. So
yeah, are there local populations affected by it as well?
I looked
or
that
have
up.
They adapted?
It has to be. I mean,
you would think.
Yeah, I mean, if carcinogen gets in this tract, it's gonna.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you are, it's gonna cause cancer. But I think I looked that up once, but I don't recall the exact what it said, if it was something that the population dealt with or not. I don't remember.
Sure. So you're still you get diagnosed with cancer. What type of support system do you around at that time?
Oh, it was great. So the full-time staff was phenomenal. They got me to all my appointments. So I would have 2 appointments a day. I'd go and have radiation. And then I would go get either chemotherapy or they would hydrate you. So they're always pumping you with fluids because you get so dehydrated from everything. So, they took great care of me. Yeah. My good friend, Grace, took the best care of me, her and her husband. So
nice. So did you have, those are people that were outside of the military, like your friend, family unit?
Yeah. So Grace was a full-time civilian at the unit.
Okay.
And then she was also a soldier there. So the traditional reservist with the unit, but then she was part of the full-time staff as a civilian.
Gotcha. So that's where it starts to feel deeper. Even you mentioned deeper than family earlier, because outside of your military circle, you didn't have folks down there, right?
No. Both my sisters, I have sisters who are twins, came and spent some time with me near the end of my treatment, where it was pretty rough getting through the day. Mm-hmm. So they came down and spent a couple weeks with me. That was tremendous help, like right at that kind of critical moment.
Yeah.
So
how long did that battle last for you?
So I think I was diagnosed in March. And I went through treatment through maybe August, September. It's all kind of a blur, actually.
I bet.
It's I don't know if it's intentional or you just kind of push that stuff back in your head, or maybe I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there always a light at the end of the tunnel going through it? Or I'm sure there were some dark days, but
yeah. You just kind of get in a routine and you don't really kind of think of that. I don't remember contemplating my existence that much. I was just trying to get through the day.
Sure.
So I had because all this was being radiation, it's all chewed up. So I had a feeding tube. So I'd dump a bunch of insure stuff. So dump a bunch of that in my feeding tube in the morning, go to my treatment, lunch, dinner, and it was mostly just, I really couldn't function. The type of radiation and chemo I had was, at the same time, obviously, was pretty rough. Mm-hmm. And then I also had a surgery too.
Okay. So then does that align up closely as you're starting to come out of that? Is that the end of your military career then?
No, not quite. So, I finished up treatment, and then the Army moved me back to Green Bay to finish up recovery. So obviously you just don't get back at work, the next day after you're done with treatment. It takes quite a while. So I had I should have thought about this a little bit further, but I don't recall the date of my surgery. But I came back to Green Bay in December of 2014. So then I was back at the 432nd Civil Affairs Battalion for a couple of years. And then in 2017, I've gotten better. I've been doing well, and slow recovery. But I moved from Green Bay to the 86th Training Division at Fort McCoy. So from 2017 to 2020, was doing great and doing all that Army stuff again. But then I was diagnosed with osteoradionecrosis. So basically, the radiation on my jaw damaged it to the point where my jaw was dying. So from here down to here is all fibula now. So at the Mayo Clinic over in Rochester, they removed my fibula, carved it up a little bit, and turned it into my jaw.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that, and that still blows my mind.
Yeah.
Is that... So you did at Mayo, so it's the top level doctors. Yeah. But is that something that they do regularly?
It is, fairly often. Yeah.
Wow. What type of what type of ramifications do you have with the fibula? Do you feel that?
So
at
that's
all?
No, you don't need a fibula. They didn't replace it with anything. It's just there for stabilization. But
okay.
I can walk and jog a little bit with no left fibula. So.
With none at all?
None at all. There's just a couple little nubs there.
Really?
Yeah.
Replaced with like a rod or anything?
Nope. Nope. You don't need it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's the one thing that shocks people the most is you don't need a fibula.
Yeah. So they do that quite often. How do they... Why... I have so many questions, and maybe some you don't have the answer to, but why that bone, and how does it end up being a jaw?
Well... That bone because you don't need it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. They do it all at once, all in one shot. And that was actually, so for cancer treatment, you kind of get worse as you go.
Yeah.
But this was like being hit by a truck, So because they're doing the surgery here, they can't intubate you as they normally would, so I had a tracheotomy for a while, which was kind of weird. And they don't close that up. They leave that open for some reason and just let it heal by itself.
Okay.
That was quite an ordeal. That was, someone took a couple baseball bats to me. So I had some time in the hospital to recover from that. And recovering from that was obviously shorter than cancer treatment, but it was pretty rough. I had a feeding tube down my nose this time. So it was the same kind of thing, dumping that Ensure type stuff, in a syringe and pushing it in. And yeah, that was, and again, one of my sisters, my sister Marjorie, came over and stayed with me for a week just to kind of get me over that hump. And
sure.
So
yeah, it probably had to be down your nose, that one, because you had to be completely immobilized for a long time, right?
Yep.
Okay. That's interesting. Even something as easy is the wrong word. Even something as normal as talking. How long would you say you went without being able to talk?
So when I went through cancer treatment, I kind of lost my voice for a while, but came back obviously, but I could talk fine. But it was swallowing after that second surgery that was the challenge. So
okay,
that you lose that muscle memory. So I had to get that back. So that's why I ended up with the tube down my nose initially. And then I had to, practice swallowing, just swallowing water. I had to constantly gulp, practicing. Yep. And after about, I think maybe it was 2 weeks, I had the feeding tube removed, and then I could.
Okay.
But the one challenge I ended up with was radiation fried my salivary glands, so I don't produce very much saliva. So that makes talking a challenge, and eating a challenge, and sleeping a challenge.
Yeah.
That's probably the one thing that hampers me the most on a daily basis is just not producing enough saliva.
Yeah. Yeah. So like even something like this, doing this, we're going to be talking for a while, is going to be relatively difficult. Yep. Probably. Gotcha. So then as you approach the end of that, is that the end of the military career?
So that was right when COVID kind of hit, that same time period. So we were working from home as a staff, and I was on convalescent leave at the time anyways. But that was the point where I'm like, yeah, I need to head towards a medical retirement because I'd been through enough. I was told when I started the process that I probably should have been medically retired after I went through cancer treatment. But, you know, you have that little bit in you that wants to do a little bit more. And when people say, no, you need to just go retire, you're like, no, I'm not going to go retire. I got this. I didn't really, but I gave it a shot. But after that, the second surgery is when I decided I need to wrap it up.
Okay. And then had the so all along, it's nice that if it was the plan for you to come back to Green Bay, it's nice that worked out because it doesn't for everybody inside of their military career. Was it always your plan to come back to Wisconsin?
Yeah, like I said, I'm originally from Eau Claire. My son was living here at the time, so all my Army buddies were here. I had a lot of close connections here, so it just kind of felt more like home. And you know, when you got a pro football team that I love to go to games to also, so that was kind of a.
Are you a Packer fan?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, what does that look like? What does it look like at the end of a 30-year career in the military, and then you decide you're going to retire, for internally and externally? What does that look like?
Well, the medical retirement process actually takes quite a while. Because you're medically retired, they do all the Veterans Administration stuff on the front end. So normally when you get out, you go to the VA, have all your appointments, find out what your disabilities are. But because of the medical retirement process, that's done first. So I'm very fortunate with that. So I had quite a process to go through, lots of paperwork shuffling, appointments to get to the point where I actually retired. So I started in about, I started that process in 2020 and I retired in 2023. So quite a long
3 years it took.
Yeah.
Wow. So in that whole 3 years, are you still working day to day?
So once again, I had awesome support from my unit there. You know, I did a great job for them. I filled a lot of roles and helped out with a lot with that unit. But in return, they were awesome with me.
Nice.
So I was working from home for quite a while, and then I got to the point, well, I can't just keep working from home. I need to go in and help out. So I started going back into the office and did what I could, helped out where I could, and they understood and were phenomenal with how well they treated me. I couldn't have asked for anything better with both my units that looked after me while I was going through my challenges.
Yeah. So then as you're nearing the end of that, are you starting to think about what the next step is? Because, I mean, knowing you probably knew you were going to do something.
I was really more focused on just getting through the process.
Yeah, just finishing up, yeah.
There was a lot to it, a tremendous amount of paperwork and just Army BS that you got to do to get out.
Sure.
So I didn't really... I wasn't really focused on the future. I was just trying to knock out what I did and knock out, and I'll get to the rest when I get to it. So
sure. So then what is the last day? What happens when after a 3-year process? Is there a paper you sign that says, all right, I'm all done? Yeah,
it's called a DD-214. It's a document that basically summarizes your military career, and that's you go in and you digitally sign that. The one kind of challenge that is. So you have to turn in all your Army gear too.
Yeah.
Not all of it. Some of it you keep. But that's always a challenge to get through that process. But the folks at Fort McCoy were great. I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I was short a couple of things, and they're like, "Oh, we can waive that," or
sure,
magic wand it or whatever. So that's always one sticking point with soldiers is clearing. It's called CIF. You got to clear CIF. So.
Okay. I'm sure you're not the only one that's been short a couple things.
Yeah. Well, I told the guy, my medic patch, I'm like, it was used in Afghanistan. I don't have it. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, how about personally going, when it gets to the end of that, you stop 30 years of anything, and there's obviously going to be a lot of reflection and stuff like that. Do you remember how you felt getting done? Was it a relief or was it wonder?
You know, a lot of people kind of lose that thing that was them, but it didn't. Army wasn't all encompassing with who I am, because I started out as a traditional reservist and then went active duty. It's a little bit different animal than a lot of soldiers that's all they've done for 20, 30 years is I'm a soldier, I'm a soldier. That there's always been a little bit more beyond that with me than some folks. So I didn't really have this reflection of, oh my God, what am I going to do now? I'm going to miss all this stuff. And I'd been through so much, and it all kind of winded down slowly. It wasn't like, bam, you're done here. So yeah, I was fine with it. I was okay being done.
Yeah.
Obviously, you miss the soldiers, miss the deployments. I mean, like I said, there's simpler to that, and plus with what we were doing, making such a difference. I miss that. I miss that challenge. But other than that, I still talk to my Army buddies and communicate. A few guys pretty close to, and so
yeah,
there's still that camaraderie, that brother and sisterhood. So.
Yeah. I guess I didn't realize from chatting with you, I didn't realize how recent it had been too. I mean, it's just been a couple years.
Yep.
So
my retirement date was May 1st of 23.
Gotcha. Yeah. So then when does the idea of photography and Master Sargeant Media come into play? When do you make that kind of connection or idea in your head?
So there's a program that's out there. It's called Veterans Readiness and Employment Program. So I go to school with you as my amazing instructor.
Thanks.
School's paid for me, completely covered, books and everything, and then I'm paid while I'm in school. So I knew I wanted to go back to school.
Yeah, who wouldn't take advantage of that? That's
exactly.
An amazing opportunity.
And I wasn't going to go back to school for anything hard. I didn't want to. I didn't want to take microbiology or any of that stuff. And I wanted to do something that I enjoyed. So photography was the, easy choice for me.
Yep. Yeah, and knowing a little bit about your business, I've been thinking about you lately with this ship running into the bridge in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because that's an area of yours. That's
I'm a boat nerd. There's a lot of us out there. It's kind of crazy. The Great Lakes shipping is a pretty interesting area of photography, and a lot of people follow it really close. And so we have pretty cool opportunities here in Green Bay to get those boats come right. A couple of them come right down through Green Bay downtown, and got some pretty cool pictures. So
yeah, I thought of you this morning too. Life has these weird happenstance things, and as I was getting the studio set up this morning and everything, I have to use two different laptops, and one of them has the thing like I've never set the background, so it's seemingly like every fifth time I open it, it'll be something different.
Sure.
And as I set it up this morning to set up producer Dan's area over there, it was this beautiful picturesque lighthouse.
Sure.
It's just a little hint that you're on the right track today, because one of the last times we talked, you had just gotten back from staying at a lighthouse for a while.
So there's two lighthouses in Wisconsin. There's one at Sherwood Point in Sturgeon Bay. And then there's the Raleigh Point Lighthouse that's down by Two Rivers. The Coast Guard actually owns them still, but they're MWR facilities, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. Yeah. So soldiers, service members, and veterans can rent them out. So yeah, me and my wife stayed down there for a weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome experience.
Yeah, and I mean, for a photographer, very few better places to be locally, right?
Well, the beach there is beautiful. We were there in February, so we weren't jumping in the water, but it's still just a beautiful beach, and the sunrise and the lighthouse. It's a very, very cool scene and awesome for someone to take some pictures.
Yeah. So for starting so recently, it seems like your business has grown relatively fast too. Has it been quicker than you expected?
Well, the business itself hasn't.
I should say your social media presence is pretty
good. My
good.
social media presence has grown. But me personally, I've gotten, like I said, a little bit busier than I wanted to be. So like I mentioned, I got the internship with the Press Times, and then I'm also working for Ambrosia Studios as a photographer for them. And then with the school, so a lot going on.
Yeah. So what are you starting to develop a picture of how you either want to grow your business or what you want to do, or is it still just exploring interests?
It's still kind of just playing around and see where it goes. I don't really have a particular path that I I've chosen that I want to head down. When I see all the thing that goes into like shooting this hockey tournament this weekend that Rob and the folks at Ambrosia Studios do to put that all together, I don't know if I want to own my own business like that. These guys there's a lot to it. They have their own network there, and people can come and look at pictures of their kids and purchase them right online. And it's crazy what those guys have put together for their studio. So, but I'm really liking the work with the press times. I go to a lot of press conferences and that kind of stuff. I like the news side of it. To be honest, I'd love to get into conflict photography. There's still that little itch, the little soldier itch there. So it'd be interesting to get to somewhere like Ukraine and be able to photograph that and capture that.
Yeah, you read my mind. That's where I was going to see if any interest lied there, because it seems to be a very natural fit, right? But a lot of decisions go into doing something like that as well. But that's something that appeals to you?
It does. Obviously with my deployment experience, I'm not just some average photographer off the street going into a combat zone. I know what right and wrong looks like in a combat zone, and I know, I got to that little bit of an instinct of, there's something bad about to go down, or a lot of it's artillery over there, so you never know when that's going to hit you. But when it's your turn to go, it's your turn to go.
Yes,
that's the way you got to look at it. And we got hit with a lot of stuff in Iraq. My first deployment, we were hit with something for, I think it was 53 nights straight. But you get to the point where, maybe the first couple times you're diving in a ditch or whatever, heading for cover, but after about a week, you're like, It
just stops phasing you.
Yeah.
Well, the human brain's a fascinating thing about how we can compartmentalize when we have to, right?
I don't know if that's good or bad sometimes.
I know, right? Because, all the effects of that moving forward, it changes how your brain works. And then, but then at the time, like we're equipped with all these tools to survive.
Yeah.
Right. And then for that to become a day-to-day occurrence of where your brain is, but it, on the other side, it's amazing that we can do it.
Right.
Yeah. So, that concept though of, a lot of times in life we're all unicorns in our certain way, right? I have to assume there's not a millions and millions of retired military veterans that are now exceptional photographers that would be willing to go to, areas of conflict. So I have to think there's a niche there that's can be filled. Yeah. We see the pictures and
someone's taking them.
Right. Yeah. And you never really think about what, who it is unless, I'm trying to think of, I saw one recently. I believe it was from Ukraine, but it was just this grainy cell phone video that you knew was just a person that lived there. That's not what you see generally come across the news and stuff. It's, people that are professionals taking pictures, and you don't think about them being in that area.
Yeah, they're out there just like everybody else, and with the way that conflict's going, they got just as much of a chance of, biting it as anybody else.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what plays, that's crossed your mind, what plays into the equation of deciding to do something like that? Like when you say yes and hop on the plane, when is that?
Well, I don't know. I don't, that's a good question. I don't know how that would actually all play out with, my wife and family and all that stuff. So, but, I've been fairly lucky up to this point. I wouldn't want my luck to run out over there. So
absolutely. Yeah. So, getting into photography, it's an area that takes some upfront investment, right?
Sure.
How fun has it been, like learning new equipment, deciding what you want?
I can't talk about that. My wife's probably going to see this.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
just don't say the numbers.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I went out and purchased a really nice camera. I wanted something that's up to date in the forefront of the technology, and then additional lenses are, a couple $1,000s there. So I have a lot into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's what I enjoy, so it's worth it to me. And
For sure.
As long as, like I said, as long as I can make enough money to keep my wife off my back, and not that she's on it, she's awesome. And get a new lens every now and again, then I'll be fine.
Yeah, I think one of the last times we were talking, you had just started on a platform where people could buy prints of your pictures, right? And I think I remember you saying you had just sold your first one.
Right.
How has it gone? It's been a couple months since then. How has it gone since then?
You can see how many people visit your different catalogs on that site. It's called Smug Mug.
Yeah.
So if you look up Smug Mug, Master Sargeant Media, LLC, then you'll find my images there. It hasn't gone great. There's a monthly fee to be on that site, and I'm still paying that. I think photography is a thing that it takes some time to grow and to be known. A lot of time. So I'm being patient with that, and I didn't expect to start making a bunch of money off that. I mean, you don't make a lot of money as if you're shooting wildlife and landscape, there's just not a lot of money in it. But I'm fine with that.
And that's one of your passion areas, right? Is like the out of doors.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Photo. So what are some of the places you like going in Wisconsin to
Door County is just, there's so much. It's beautiful up there. There's a lot of lighthouses. It's fun to discover places that you didn't know were there too. Just jump on Google and tourist attractions near me, and it comes up with hundreds of different spots, and run and check them out, take some pictures. And as a photographer, when you're running around town, you just see stuff that'll make a great picture. Like I was driving over the bridge in De Pere last night, and I'm like, oh wow, look at those lights along the river. That would be a really cool shot. So I'm gonna probably sometime this weekend get down there and take that at night.
Nice. It wasn't look at those 19,000 boats right next to each other out there fishing walleyes.
Yeah. well, the crazy thing that I saw the other day is I saw some pelicans flying in near that bridge in De Pere, and I'm like, oh, I'll go take some pictures of them. So I went down by the dam, and there was hundreds of them down there. Crazy. So took a lot of pelican shots.
Yeah, that's like a yearly type deal down there, right?
It's a migration thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I had never seen that, and even growing up in the area, I had never seen that, just never really paid attention or whatever, or maybe it didn't happen. I don't know a ton about it. But when we moved back, I remember the first time seeing all the pelicans around, and it just struck me as strange.
Yeah, like what are these guys doing here?
Yeah, yeah. And how did I not know this happened?
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of a new. It's got to be kind of a new thing because I don't remember it from years ago. I remember seeing maybe one or two every once in a while, but not. There's literally 100 of them at least, by the dam there in De Pere.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be somebody that watches this that knows exactly what it is, and they're like, "This is the reason." I'm gonna have to Google that because it's striking. They're a striking looking creature.
Oh, they're huge.
Yeah,
I was trying to catch a couple of them coming in for a landing because they look like a World War II pontoon plane landing. Very neat birds. For how big they are, they're very graceful.
Yeah. For sure. One other thing I wanted to talk about today, kind of switching gears a little bit, but thinking about how fun it would be to do this on your way up to Door County to take pictures, is your motorcycle sounds super, super interesting. We talked about it a little bit that day. That's one of your big hobbies, right?
Yeah. So I have a Ural motorcycle. So the first time I saw one of these, it's a sidecar motorcycle. I was in Iraq in 2003. And I remember seeing this, and I asked my translator, what kind of motorcycle is this? Oh, it's a Ural. It's Russian. We have many. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's always been in the back of my mind. And I got home, and did a little bit. When did I get back? 2007, I think I got back home. And I'm like, I need to research these a little bit more. And found a dealership online, and it's a Harley dealership over in St. Croix. They also sell Ural motorcycles, St. Croix Harley. Great folks over there. My now good friend, the owner, Dell. So, I bought a sidecar motorcycle. So it's kind of interesting. Ural is a private enterprise over there. And when the war started, they said, well, we're not dealing with this. And they moved to Kazakhstan, actually. So
Move the whole organization.
Yep. They're doing some stuff still in Russia, but primarily they're operating out of Kazakhstan now.
Wow.
So they've been making the bikes since 1942 or 43. So they basically took a World War II German BMW and did a little reverse engineering and kind of copied that thing. So it's a flat twin engine, just like the BMWs. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So is it something that, as soon as you saw one, you knew, like, I'm going to probably get one of these someday, or did it come back to you at some point?
Well, so everything I've been through, it kind of screwed up my balance. I've always wanted a motorcycle, but I have a little bit of vertigo and my balance is messed up. Yeah. So if you ever see me standing for longer periods, I'm kind of doing like this. I'm always adjusting. You probably won't notice it, but if you look close, or I'll be holding on to something.
Sure.
Because my balance is just a little wonky. So there's no way I could ride a normal motorcycle. So I'm like, oh, this sounds like fun.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot more comfortable for the passenger. My wife loves it. She's sitting right here next to me. It's easier to talk. Yeah. It's so much more comfortable than being on the back of a bike and really not being able to see everything and communicate. So it's an awesome, fun bike.
I remember you telling me that because my first reaction was like, I think I'd be scared riding in the sidecar. Yeah. But then when you told me that makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. It's almost more secure and enjoyable because and the communication thing. Yeah. You're right next to each other. It's like being in a really fun convertible car that's a little bit different.
Like a carnival ride. I mean, the sidecars are like a little carnival ride type thing. It looks like so.
Yeah, man, you wonder how many organizations that happen to, as far as it's wild to think about. They just picked up and moved out of Russia.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're not the only ones, man. That's a wild, wild place.
Well, it's my understanding they're still facing a lot of challenges getting bikes out of Kazakhstan because a lot of them got to come through somewhere around Ukraine to get them up to Germany to port to get them out. So very resilient company, and they've been battling for years to get their product out there. And you don't see a lot of them around. There's one other one here in town. But like I said, the dealership over in New Richmond, go check them out.
Do you have a special wave to the one other one in town? Like,
no, we still do the old standard motorcycle wave,
I mean, 2 is pretty unique.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a lot, not everyone has seen one before, so you get a lot of strange looks but
yeah, I still never Googled it after talking about it. It's one of those things that I was interested in, and then it got taken over mind space by a lot of other things that I know. Yeah. But I remember you describing it to me, and I have this mental picture that's probably nothing what it looks like. But yeah, that's super interesting. And you're not even you said you traded in a couple, right?
Yeah, this is my third one. Yeah. So I've had a 15, a 17, and this is a 23. So I don't know at what point it was, but they stopped using a lot of the Russian electronics and brakes and stuff like that. So the bikes have gotten, they weren't really necessarily very reliable early on, but they've gotten better and better and better. And every year they're improving the bikes. And the one I have now, it runs awesome, starts awesome. It's perfect.
Nice. So what's next for you? A couple internships or a job and an internship right now, your own business, do you know?
No, I don't really have a set goal of where, just make enough money to buy some new lenses and go on vacation. And I don't really this is where I need to be. Mm-hmm. I don't have that. I'm just kind of taking life one day at a time and enjoying what I can.
Yeah. Is that after a career of, discipline and rigidity and kind of like that whole kind of whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's what in your life incorporated, right? You were equating it to what you were talking about that deployments were. Like they're easy because they're this, and this. Mm-hmm. This is the polar opposite of that. Do you find it difficult?
Well, I wasn't I'll say I was a great soldier, but I wasn't exactly the most disciplined. I would try to get around the stupid parts of the system here and there. So, and I was pretty good at it. So,
nice.
I because of the fact that I was active guard reserve, AGR, we didn't have a lot of the stuff that discipline, locked in schedule, like normal active duty soldiers have. So it's a real awesome way to be in the Army active duty is the AGR program. So
Sure.
you get the best of both worlds. You get the flexibility and the civilian side of it, but you still have the Army side of it that you enjoy. So
yeah. Well, all right. When's the next boat come into Green Bay to take a picture of? I know you got your app that tells you where and when.
No, there's nothing out in the lakes that's heading here now. I've gotten actually an opportunity to be kind of Facebook friends with one of the captains on one of the boats that comes in. So we message each other back and forth, and he sent me some shots from the bridge and stuff. So yeah, I keep it pretty hard close at that app, and you just got to kind of watch and see what's coming in next. The Alpina, she's the oldest lady on the lakes, built in 1942. She comes in fairly often to drop cement. So that's the one boat you'll see a lot.
Yeah. How'd your interest start there in the boats? Like, how'd you get there?
I don't know. They're just, I really don't remember. But it's amazing how many people out there just love them, love the photography, love just watching. There's a lot of boat watchers out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall how it all started, but it's just kind of always fascinated me. As a soldier, I've kind of leaned toward the boat thing. But
yeah.
Right.
More now, they're hoping they don't hit the bridge. That's a wild scenario.
Oh, yeah.
That's just crazy.
Well, it's it can happen.
Oh yeah, it's just like anything else. I mean, accidents happen, right? Yeah. And now that I've read a couple stories about like the cleanup and stuff. My dad was telling me about it the other day too. My dad's gotten into it. My dad's retired, so he kind of got into that. Now he's watching YouTube's videos about it and stuff, and just like the scale of what that cleanup is going to have to be, and just like the logistical issues that are in existence now, it's wild. So
there's petroleum product boats that come into Green Bay often now, and you should come down and watch them do this once. Where they, by the terminal there, they have two tugs that come out, and they'll turn it around right in the river there, right by that bridge, right by the Tower Bridge. So it's pretty interesting. But that's something that, could go bad real quick. But obviously a lot of precautions and safety procedures and stuff, and nothing so far. But, kind of after seeing what happened there, it's kind of scary.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's got to make for some cool shots, though.
Oh, yeah, I got some really cool video and photography of the tugs moving the boats around.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in and taking some time to chat with us, John, sharing your story.
Yeah.
It's been definitely a life full of adventure, and I'm excited for what's next for you. I hope you find that next thing that really excites you as much as the motorcycle and the boats.
Well, I'm there now. I don't think I need any more. I'm happy where I'm at. So
nice. Well, thanks for taking the time, John.
No, thanks for having me.